Welcome to episode 6 of New to Hill Country, the podcast that helps you find out what's going on in Hill Country and helps you learn how to integrate yourself better in the community in this area. I'm your host, Michael Hines, owner and head coach at SBG Texas. At SBG Texas, we teach martial arts, yoga, meditation for kids and adults. It's a great time there. We really focus on community, and we believe in one tribe, one vibe. We are here today talking to Sean Peters of South Texas Fur Takers. What Sean is into is night hunting. So he goes out and he's got like thermal scopes and things like that. It's a lot of fun, all the stuff he's going to talk about today. But before we get to that, I just want to talk about our sponsor, LMNT. LMNT was developed by Elemental Labs. It's an electrolyte mix. You just throw it into 16 ounces of water. Boom, you're hydrated for the day. I've never experienced anything like it. The first time I encountered this product was long before I had any association with them. I was training jiu-jitsu in Costa Rica, and I think I actually got to test the product maybe before most people ever got a chance to see it, because Rob Wolf, who co-created LMNT, came down to the course. We were training in 100 degrees plus weather, no air conditioning, essentially a kind of barn is what we were training in. And man, we were sweating like crazy. And, just the most noticeable thing was when I forgot to charge up my water with LMNT. He gave me a box of LMNT, and if I just tried to drink regular water to get hydrated properly, I would just drink so much till my gut felt like it was going to explode, but I still felt thirsty. Throw a thing of element in the same amount of water, or far less water really, and boom, I'm hydrated, ready to go. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk to Sean Peters. Let's get it started. Okay, and we're live. So welcome to the show. I'm here with Sean Peters of Texas Fur Takers. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Howdy. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm doing good. Doing real good. So, we like to talk about Hill Country here and things going on around in Hill Country. I myself am very new to Hill Country. Are you from this area, or did you move to this area later in life?
I'm from Central Texas originally. Grew up in Belton on the lake there. Not quite Hill Country, but pretty close. Spent a lot of time in the Hill Country, things like that. But you definitely picked a good place to move to.
Yeah. When did you move to Hill Country precisely? Like, or do you consider Central Texas?
Yeah. Technically, I wouldn't even consider where I'm at now Hill Country, because I'm south of or east of 35 and south of 10. You're kind of right on the edge, but I dabble in the Hill Country. I graduated high school there in Belton, and I moved to Stephenville, which is north central Texas. Went to college up there, and then I moved down here just outside San Antonio.
Okay.
And been here since about 2012.
Okay. What did you study in school?
I got a bachelor's of science in wildlife management and a minor in biology.
Okay.
And plan was to be a wildlife biologist or a game warden, but ended up going into the oil field like most people. So
I see. Huh. Interesting. What drove you to moving down here? You said 2012. What brought you into this area?
Work.
Okay.
I had a buddy worked for the same company out of the Fort Worth office, and then when it kicked off down here, that Eagleford boom, he moved down here, and about 6 months later, he got me on down here.
Okay.
Been here ever since.
Is the Eagleford boom a shale oil production? Okay.
Yep. It's an oil shale play down here.
I see. Well, that's cool. And have you been happy moving down here?
I miss my oak trees. There's not a lot of oak trees once you get south of 10. But it's grown on me. It's definitely better than West Texas. I'll take the mesquites over nothing. So, no, I don't mind it. It's grown on me. Got to do a lot of hunting and things like that. So, been pretty lucky.
Okay. How what would you describe as kind of some of your favorite aspects of this region?
Ooh.
Like, what do you think is like the cool stuff to do in the area? Like,
well, hill country. I mean, I really like all the wineries and vineyards and things like that. My wife and I used to own a Texas wine bar in downtown San Antonio for a few years called the Rustic Grape. And so we still frequent the wineries quite a bit in the hill country area, whether it be Fredericksburg or Wimberley or wherever. They've got a bunch of really good ones all over the place. So
I see.
That's my wife's hobby. So I get drug on certain weekends, and that's what I end up doing.
Okay. Well, let's dwell on that for a bit. What are some good local wines then that I should be looking out for? Because I'll fill in my side on this. So my side in drinking is I was living in Korea for the last 15 years or so, and I, near the trail end, the last few years, had learned to make traditional Korean alcohol. And what I was mostly drinking in Korea was stuff that I would make. But then the other thing, I liked Scotch, and I had a friend that was a really big bourbon guy, so he kind of introduced me to every bourbon under the sun. When I was in Korea, I actively avoided wine, and the reason was that the markup was astronomical. So you would go into a wine shop there, and I would look at a wine, and maybe, let's say it'd be priced at like $30 or something like that, obviously in Korean won, but it would be the equivalent of $30. And I'd Google that sucker, and it'd be like a $5 wine. And you're just kind of, and you're seeing you would really have to spend if you spend a good 20-25 minutes in a wine shop, you might be able to find something that was at least priced similarly. I wouldn't say like competitively or lower. So I just gave up on wine. I never disliked it. I just was like, okay, this is not the country to get interested in wine because it's too expensive and overpriced. So I'm slowly trying to kind of make myself a little more aware of wines. And so, yeah, I'm really curious, like for Texas wines and stuff, what should I be looking out for?
This is really a question for my wife. Like I said, I just kind of drank what she would bring home. But, I mean, there was several good ones that I liked. Texas Legato, Singing Water, which I know Singing Water just changed hands. It's new ownership now, so I haven't had any of their new wine. We're members of the Dukeman Wine Club. They're out of Wimberley. I really like that winery. It's a good one to visit. We just got our wine club delivered, so she got a dozen bottles or so of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, as far as names of the wineries, I cannot remember for the life of me a lot of them, but we did basically to be able to sell in our store. For us to sell your wine, you had to have at least 75% of your wine had to be made from Texas grapes. So 75% of the labels you carried. So the majority of everything we had was 100% Texas, and some of it, had up to 25% grapes from somewhere else, typically California or something like that. But I think there's somewhere around 300 or 400 wineries or vineyards in Texas. Yeah. So, I mean, you can really, really branch out just on the Texas theme, which that's what people here in Texas are all about, is Texas stuff. So
sure.
It did well while we had it. So
I see. Is there any, because I'm a bit of a wine novice here, so is there a particular character to Texas wine, like relative to California or like Argentina or something like that? Is there like a type of wine that is more common for Texas?
That is a good question. That'll also be another question for my wife. We have to get her here on an episode to talk about wine, because she could talk your ear off, boy. She was the salesman, and I was just lifting the heavy boxes.
Well, Sean, ask her, because that might be the next show right there. So I would be very curious.
Oh yeah, no, she'll do it. She'll get a chance to talk about wine. She's all about it, because she's on that low carb right now, so she's not doing wine for the next couple weeks.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. What got her into trying low carb, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh, just trying to get back healthy. We've done the low carb a few times. We've tried different stuff like South Beach and keto and things. And we do it for a while, and we just get so busy that we kind of stray from it. And so we're kicking it back up right now, trying to
that's cool.
Do something while we're doing nothing here, sitting at the house. So
I understand. Okay, interesting. So what I know what you like to do for fun. Like I kind of know your thing, so I'll let you introduce the Texas Fur Takers, and just shoot from there. Like,
okay, yeah, I'm a big varmint and predator hunter. I just started out with just Instagram, just somewhere to post my pictures and videos. Started the South Texas Fur Takers, and then I kind of rolled it into a YouTube, which I'm just getting started, putting anything from hunting videos to gun reviews and things like that on there. So, like I said, Texas is 95% privately owned. So if you don't own land, it's pretty tough to get in. It's pretty expensive if you want to be a deer hunter. If you don't have land of your own or have a buddy that's got land or something like that. And I figured out a long time ago that something that people let you do is come shoot hogs and coyotes. So I kind of went that direction with it, and it's been great. Picked up quite a few properties we get to hunt, and I just run around in the dark, and you get to fire a lot more shots than you do, one or two deer during the year. So I enjoy it. It's slow until it isn't, which you've experienced.
Right.
Some nights are better than others, but yeah, it's a good time. I enjoy it. So, and I enjoy getting new people into it and exposing people to it, and it's great. I love it.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun and something that I would like to do again. And I was super. So to fill people in, my father had come down to visit New Braunfels and see us, and my dad's a very avid hunter, and now that he's retired, that's kind of about all he does really, is hunt and fish and drink. And he came down to visit, and I have this dream that I'm going to get my dad to at least move down to Texas part-time, my mom and my dad, so that they can spend more time with their grandkids and just we can see them more. And I knew that if we could get him a little bit of hunting, just a little bit, just a taste of it, that'd go a long way in that discussion later. And it's interesting. My dad, after we went hunting that night, so Sean was sweet enough to take us out and show us the night hunting, which my dad has never done that kind of thing before. And I mean, when we came back the next day, he was just like he was 30 years younger. I mean, he's just a little schoolboy about stuff. He gets all excited. I mean, he was all excited leading up to it. Like it was just a noticeable difference. Like, it's not that he's disinterested in other things. He's just actively very interested in anything hunting related. So yeah, he just, it was cool to see how excited he got. And I haven't swung back around with him yet to talk about him getting some property down here or something, but I'm pretty sure he's interested in coming back already. Like, I already got that sense that he would like to come back down again. So I was really happy that we could make that happen.
Me.
What's like, what's kind of one of like because you were talking with me while we were out and everything about sometimes you'd come up on, like, let's say a big field full of hogs. I'm just kind of curious, like, how many might you drop in one sitting? Like, what's like the highest number you've gotten or whatever? Because I'm just curious. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, we've gotten on some big groups of 40 to 50 hogs and things like that, and it typically there's anywhere from one to, I don't like to go with more than usually 3 people. It gets a little crowded.
Sure.
You got less room in the pickup for gear and things like that.
Sure.
But every once in a while we'll do 3 or 4 people. But I think our personal best so far has been like 16 or 17 hogs out of a group of probably 25, 30, 40, somewhere around there.
I see.
Yeah. The thing about it is we're using thermal, so we're looking at the heat signatures. And if you've got a dark night and those hogs are out there, they can smell, but they can't see really well or hear all that great. So if you got a little bit of wind and you play the wind right, you can sneak right up on them, and we'll get to where we're 25, 30 yards from them whenever we start shooting. And if you're in a big open field, I mean, you can shoot at them out to 250, 300 yards with these thermals. So depending on what you're running, sometimes I run a bolt action, sometimes I run AR-15. And when I'm running that AR, you can burn through those magazines pretty quick on a big group of hogs.
Sounds super fun. Yeah. Cool. How do you feel when you're done with something like that? Talk us through the experience.
Oh man, it's an adrenaline rush for sure. I mean, it can get pretty crazy. I've had them, turn around and run right at you and charge you, and I've been knocked down. And I mean, it can get pretty intense, but I mean, somebody's got to do it. There's just a ton of hogs here in Texas, and the way they breed and multiply. Really, honestly, the hunting doesn't keep the numbers in check. It definitely helps on certain properties, but the overall numbers, you may push them to a neighbor's place, keep them off your property for a while, but the numbers are going to keep growing just at the rate they're breeding. So that's why they do the helicopter hunts and things like that. That's why, of course, this year Texas opened it up to where you don't have to have a hunting license for a resident or non-resident to hunt hogs. So that's a new deal. They're really trying to chip away at the population, get people to hunt them.
So what do the hog I know, but let's talk and imagine that people listening to this know nothing about wildlife and stuff like that. What is the issue with having too many hogs on a property? What are they going to do to that property, just so that people have an understanding of that?
Right. Well, so a lot of these farmers, they're growing things like peanuts or wheat or whatever, and these hogs come through and they root it all up. And I've seen it where somebody will go plant seeds, and that hog will run right down the row, and you can see where its nose just pushed all the way through, and he ate every single one of those seeds down that row that got planted.
Wow.
And they like them right when they start to germinate too, before they even start to grow. And then of course, once they're grown and if the stuff gets too big for them to eat the actual, which they'll eat the peanuts all year round, but like wheat fields and oat fields and things like that, what they'll do is they'll go in there and they'll get the grubs that curl up at the bottom of the bulbs on the plants. And by doing that, their nose, they've got a little lip on top of their nose, and it's hard as a rock, and it's basically a shovel. And I mean, I've seen 3 foot wide by 2 foot deep holes they dig in these plowed fields, which, makes it hard to plow. And of course, it ruins all the plants in the area, and they do millions and millions of dollars worth of crop damage. And then, some of the places I hunt are horse ranches. So they dig these big holes, and these horses go galloping across that pasture, and they'll break a leg. And of course, then you got to put the horse down. So, there's all kinds of random reasons that different landowners don't like them for different reasons.
And then, do you know what would have kept the hogs in check prior? Like, what would have been like leading to depopulation for them in a more natural ecosystem? Humans obviously just kind of upend all of that with our presence. So, right. Was there what predators would have been taking them out typically?
Really the only thing here in Texas that's smaller hogs, coyotes and bobcats will eat them.
Okay.
I've called in a lot of coyotes with pig distress sounds and things like that. You've got mountain lions as well, but there's not near as many mountain lions here. It's really not going to keep the population in check. And they breed. They can have a little over 2 litters a year, so it's 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. So by the time you have them and everything, it's not quite 3 litters a year, but it's pretty close. And I mean, they can have anywhere from 8 to 16 piglets there. So those sounders, which is a group of hogs, gets pretty big pretty quick. And it doesn't take long for them to be able to survive on their own. So if something happens to mama, once they're about 10 pounds, they're good to go. They can survive on their own.
I see. Oh.
Yeah. So, they're pretty resilient critters. No, it's not very big at all. I don't know how many days that would be or weeks old, but it's not very old at all.
Interesting. So we were having a conversation with, Maggie. We were talking to Maggie Eubank on just a couple days ago, and we were talking, and actually I was talking with Kent Schoberly about this and how people Some people are like, tend to be pretty, we've gotten to a point where we are very distant from the means of production. So whatever it is, whether it's food or what we wear or anything, just that's the nature of, commercial society and everything, where you have, products brought to you and you buy them. I mean, and you can't, I'm not trying to be, I'm not like some big, move out to the mountain type of guy or whatever, but just, in that process, we kind of lose sight of what produces our food, and so when you talk about, and, people start talking about, okay, well, we were just talking about this with regards to people being very anti-meat and stuff like that, and not looking at actually like a farm that is producing vegetables will still probably have to kill a certain amount of animals, like just to keep them from eating the vegetables, and those are just kind of realities that will occur. Like the image of a pig just running down a whole row, eating every single seed that's just started to germinate is a pretty powerful vision right there. I think people are just a little, and I'm not trying to say people can't go meatless or anything like that, but I do think there are arguments within that community where people have lost a little sight of what things actually look like on the ground in a real farm and stuff. So
they're a little insulated, and by no fault of their own. I mean, it's just how they were raised, where they were raised.
Sure.
But I mean, really and truly, what is it? 3% of the population's vegan, something like that. So where 97% of the people eat meat, which is a lot of people. So really and truly, everybody can't go kill their own meat. Now, if for every 5 houses you had a 5-acre plot where you grew vegetables and had a couple calves, maybe, we could do it that way. But I don't think people are going to do that.
Sure.
So as long as we have cities, there's going to have to be some kind of mass production of meat and vegetables and things like that.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine any sort of complex. One of the very first defining features of any sort of complex society is division of labor. Just to some degree, someone's got to do something different from someone else. And we can't all be doing everything all the time. That's just not how societies function. So yeah, there's always going to be a move towards a certain insular perspective. It's good for us though to kind of take a little time and reacquaint ourselves with what's actually going on and how things actually make it to us. They don't just come through Amazon, right? So they actually go through people in a process and everything. Yeah, so it's cool. It's cool. Talking about hunting, where do you want to go with South Texas fur shakers? Like where do you see this going long term? What kind of plans do you have?
Really, I just did it just to, get my name out there a little more, to get more properties to hunt. I didn't do it to become famous or, have a big Instagram or thing like that. It's basically just I enjoy doing it, and I like getting people into it. I had a blast taking you and your dad out there. I do it every once in a while. I don't really guide hunts or anything like that, but I will take new people. And I mean, like I said, it's just because I enjoy doing it, and it makes it a little easier. Said I picked up a few sponsors along the way, so I get to demo some of the higher end stuff that I can afford myself, which is helpful because I get to use some cool stuff that I would never get to use otherwise. So that's been probably the best part about it, and it just kind of happened by accident. So
sure. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you start doing kind of business that way, how many people are pretty eager to actually reach out and help you do business in that way, just so that they get some eyes on what they're doing. Once you go into business, it's not real easy to get eyes on what you're doing. Like you can have the best product in the world, but it ain't easy to market, and you can lose a lot of money through conventional marketing methods. Like it can be very tricky to try like, it's interesting, this new social media landscape basically, and kind of how it adds a certain authenticity to things. Like you just want to hunt, you know what I mean? Like you just going out there to hunt. Like, so if someone wants to help you do it, they help you and you help them because they
they get some eyes on what they've got to offer. That's pretty cool. So, yeah. What's some stuff that you've never been able to hunt that you really want to hunt? Where is there any kind of, do you got any kind of bucket list for things you want to take down?
Yeah, I've gotten real big on this predator train, so I would like to go do a mountain lion hunt.
Mm-hmm.
I had a buddy, he just got back. He went to New Mexico this year and got a big cat, and he was telling me about, just how great of a trip it was. That's definitely on the bucket list. And I mean, I'd like to travel around and do it. I doubt I ever will, but I wouldn't mind going to Africa and doing some of the predator type stuff, jackals and things like the coyotes and bad-eared fox and all that kind of stuff. That appeals to me. I'm not interested in going shoot an elephant or anything like that.
Sure.
That doesn't really do it for me. But
sure.
Like I said, stuff that hunts as well. I really enjoy that. It's a little more of a challenge. You've got to trick them rather than just sit and wait. So it's that's just more appealing to me.
Do you eat much of the stuff that you collect, or is it not? Do you feel like it's not very good? I'm just kind of curious where.
The hogs, if they're a good size, sow or something like that, yeah, I'll clean those and bring them home. The freezer's pretty full. We kill quite a bit of hogs, so I can't keep them all. But bobcat's actually pretty good. I have not tried coyote. I know a few people that have, but it just doesn't really tickle my fancy, so I'm staying away from that one. Most of the predators, no, foxes and badgers and things like that. No, we don't eat them. But bobcats, I like the backstraps out of bobcat. And I had some mountain lion. My buddy, he cooked up his mountain lion, and it was delicious. I mean, it's a really white meat. It's kind of like pork, but it was really good. So
okay. Yeah. I'd be down to try all that stuff. I like eating just about anything. I'll give anything a try pretty much. So
right.
Yeah. I was over in Korea. So like
right.
I was over in Korea, and my good friend was John Frankel. So like, yeah, he was always helping me find like interesting stuff, and I didn't really find that much interesting stuff until John and I got closer, and then he'd be like, "Hey, there's a black goat meat place up the street," and I was like, "There is?" Like, I didn't even know to look for it, basically. And then we'd do some jiu-jitsu, and then we'd go get some black goat meat, and I was like, "This is fantastic!" Like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of people that are just kind of, they're in their pork, chicken, beef, and there's nothing else, and I think they're missing out. I think there's a lot of other tastes and experiences to be had with other meats and stuff. And I mean, same could be said about vegetables too. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of interesting. I'll try roots, and I'll try all kinds of different berries and stuff like that. I don't just stay on the standard stuff. So, I'm always happy to try something else.
Well, and I don't just do the predator hunting, so I do all the traditional hunting as well. I'm a big whitetail hunter, and I dove hunt, quail hunt, duck hunt. So we've got a freezer full of all that stuff, and of course, Texas has got all kinds of exotics as well. Every once in a while, got some Axis in the fridge, or got a nilgai a couple years ago, which ate on for a while. And that was surprising.
I'm sorry, what was that? You got a what?
A nilgai.
I don't know what that is.
So they're from. It's a little about the size of a cow. It's got a real high shoulder, and it's got two little horns up on top of its head. But they're from India, and they got brought over here. And from what I'm told, I think it's either Kennedy or Kleberg County, which is kind of South Texas, a little further south than we are.
Yeah.
I want to say there's more nilgai in those two counties than in all of India.
Interesting.
But that's what I've heard. I don't know if that's true or not, but they free range down there on a lot of ranches, and on the King Ranch, there's a lot of free range nilgai. But it's a really, really good, delicious animal. But they're big and spooky, so it's tough to get on them when they see you from 800-900 yards away. Boy, they're booking it. So you got to be real stealthy. But they're pretty cool.
Huh. So you're saying Neil Ga? Am I hearing that right?
Neil Guy. Yeah. Nigali.
Huh.
Yep.
Yeah, I've just never even heard of that. That's
it's
totally new for
Google.
me.
Yeah, it's one of the many animals that's been brought to Texas. The majority or a lot of the things that people hunt around here aren't even native species. Of course, most of those are on those high fence game ranches, but like Axis and Nilgai have gotten to where they free range, and they're both exotics. So
I see.
You can hunt those year round.
And how did they? Yeah. So, anyways, that's a very fascinating thing. I didn't realize that. I just never even heard of that species at all. Huh. That's fascinating. And that tastes kind of more like beef, or?
Yeah, it's kind of like I don't want to say fatty. It's kind of beefy. It's a little bit greasier, but it's really good.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a leaner cut of beef.
I see.
Just because they're free range and they're running all over the place. They're not
sure. I mean, that's similar to beef. Once
sure.
You get beef free ranging, it tends to be leaner too, right? So yeah.
Right. I think it gets a little darker, and there's more blood flow through that meat because they're moving around more and things like that.
That's fascinating. I'll have to check that out eventually too. Then, Sean? When am I going to do all this? Like, when am I going to?
I'm telling you,
I know.
I'm almost 35, and I'm still not even close to doing all the stuff I'd want to do around here.
Well, that's one of the fun things about doing this podcast is I'm talking to different people about kind of like what are they doing in this area, and boy, it's like I'm awfully busy with the gym and this, and I'm like, when am I going to do some of these things? Like, but I find a little time here and there. Right now, we have all the time in the world with the lockdown, but can't do any of this stuff. So it's kind of it's a bit of a frustration within it, like when. But understand why people are doing this and everything. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready to get back on the mats for sure. I've had a bad run of luck with my jiu-jitsu. The first time I got into it, did it for a couple months, and then I had a cracked rib, and then I got back, did it for a couple months, and then tore my ACL, and rehabbed that, and then took some time off, and then heard about you on Annie Stump's podcast and talked to you and came join the gym, and then of course about a month or so into it we got the lockdown and they shut down the gym. So I'm one of these days I'm gonna get it going.
We'll get it going. We'll have it going. I'm just kind of curious, when you had your injuries, were those like during free sparring?
Yes. And the rib was an accident. Well, they were both technically accidents, but I had a blue belt, a couple stripe blue belt that was doing a sweep on me, and he was much larger than me, and he was actually very gentle with me. He wasn't being crazy or anything like that, but the way he rolled me, his foot got caught underneath me, and the ball of his ankle was right in between two of my ribs. Wow. And when he sat up, his foot was still under there, and it put all that weight down on my ribs. He was probably 250 pounds, and that ball of that ankle just cracked that rib. I separated them is what it did, and a little crack in one of them. And then the ACL was just another crazy white belt going, 90 miles an hour trying to do something. He didn't even really have anything. Right. So I wasn't too worried about it. He just kind of had my legs laced with his, and he was arching his back and doing everything he could trying to figure something out. And all of a sudden it just popped, boy. And it took me a second to realize it was my knee that made that noise. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's unavoidable with any sort of physical activity. You're going to get some injuries, but just one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is trying to create an environment where we can cut down on as many unnecessary injuries as possible. So I think when a lot of other people hear about jiu-jitsu, they're like, they imagine like Fight Club. Basically, it's like this like super ruckus, rough thing. And I got to be honest, I'm not trying to throw everybody else under the bus, but it isn't too far away from the truth in a lot of gyms. that is kind of what you are. You literally are kind of coming into Fight Club, and for some people that's really exciting. But then there's just a lot of other people who are like, I don't want to get hurt, and B, I don't want to teach myself how to fight. You know, like, and if you come to a class and over half the class is just free sparring, in essence, you are teaching yourself how to fight. And so what we try to do is, you know, really just everybody starts out in classes and we're teaching you how to protect yourself. And that way we also protect people from, you know, just a random guy coming off the street who just wants to get his weekend warrior on and pops your knee out because he doesn't know what he's doing. You know, he's just going wild and crazy and you know, just trying to he's just having a little bit of excitement, but often at someone else's expense. So we really shield people from the free sparring. That's something that you have to earn at our gym, because we want people to take safety seriously and really to take the safety of their training partner seriously. Because you've heard me probably say it many times when the classes start. You know, the goal is for everybody to train next time. You know, like, right. So don't, you know, we're doing pretty serious stuff with people's bodies, so you can't get too crazy, you can't get too wild, and you know, save some of that wildness for an actual fight or for a tournament or something like that. You don't need to unleash that on me on a Wednesday night or something. So
I've actually really enjoyed the foundations and the drilling side of it and focusing more on the drilling. You know, has to be able to remember what you did the next class,
right?
Rather than, you know, practice it. Oh, do it 5 times with your partner, and then everybody's going to roll. So,
right. Yeah, I mean,
I feel like I'm getting more out of it. Some people may prefer the other way. If I was 17 years old, I might prefer the going in and rolling right off the bat. But you know, being a little older and not in the best shape right now, I'm working on it. But you know, I really enjoy the foundations and learning the foundations of it and the basics, and you know, basically something to build off of. Because like you said, you go in there and roll and you don't know what you're doing and you're not really doing anything.
You're reinventing the wheel, you know. It's and there's the rare individual who can do that sort of. We're gonna actually talk to Jimmy White on one of these podcasts, and Jimmy White used to be good friends with I don't know, not that they're bad friends, but used to spend a fair amount of time around Greg Jackson. You know Greg Jackson, right? Like,
oh yeah,
he's the Jackson Winklejohn, the coach out in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and they've had a number of champions in the UFC. And I have listened to talks from Greg Jackson, and you know, he sort of like self-taught in jiu-jitsu. He just like taught himself. You know, like it's not impossible. It's just extraordinary. You know, like that he could do that and his students were able to compete. You know, like they hadn't learned under a Gracie or something like that. He just started kind of street fighting, and but at the same time, I'm sure wherever he could learn something, he's going to try to learn it. You know, like he's not going to just be like, don't teach me anything, I'll teach myself. You know, like I've really never met anyone who's very accomplished who has that perspective. It's usually like, show me everything you can show me, and then I'll reappropriate it for my own needs. That's generally what I found from successful and smart people, is that type of attitude. So
right.
But yeah, anyways, it'll be exciting to get you back on the mats. I'm obviously excited to do that, and it's been great talking with you. I think we'll close out here, and just anything else you want to add? What's the precise Instagram name for someone who wants to look for South Texas Fur Takers?
Well, you can search South Texas Fur Takers, or the actual handle is STX _fur _takers, and then my Instagram or my YouTube is South Texas Fur Takers as well, and it'll have the same logo on both.
Cool. I like to usually add that at the end, just so that people don't have to try to like wind back through to find the thing that they were looking for. So So anyways, have a good evening, Sean. Thanks for getting on and talking with us.
Yeah, appreciate it, Michael. Have a good one, buddy.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.